Hey, everybody. So good to see all of you. I'm at least hoping that all of you are seeing me. I don't think I can see you, but I'm so excited. I've got somebody to chat with this morning, somebody for us at Mumbai who sets our day going. At Mumbai, we wake up to the task and the challenge of the battle of navigating traffic, reaching office, getting all the stuff done, impossible deadlines, and just the thought of that may want you to stay in bed a little longer. But here's somebody, the rich baritone voice shouting out "Good morning, Mumbai," really is the catalyst for us to get our day really going. The person I'm going to be chatting with is a voice artist, a radio host, presenter, multiple RAPA winner, a Pro Max winner, a whole list of winners, right? Emax Global Award for Best Award Ceremony, MC, Compere. But for me, I think if I have to describe the person, he is the father of Tiara and Ira, the husband of Archel, and to be a friend, although I've just met him a couple of occasions. So, ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to have Hrishi K or Hrishi K chatting with me this morning. Hrishi, thank you so much.
Rajiv, it's an absolute pleasure. I want to start by telling you that, you talk about me kickstarting your day and the city's day, but your writing on the wall, which is Rajiv Chelladurai's writing on the wall, really motivates me. For those of you who don't know, Rajiv sends out these daily messages which just infuse you with so much positivity and love to face the day ahead. And that's really what it is. It's a writing on the wall, and the idea is to try and imprint that on your mind and eventually on your soul. And your work as a leadership guru, as a life coach is remarkable, especially in times like this, in the COVID-19 crisis. So I'm just very happy to talk to a friend, like you said.
Thanks, Hrishi. Thank you so much for that. So 3 cities, is that right? Kolkata, Lucknow, Mumbai.
Absolutely.
So
with
what
a
are
small
these
stint, with a small stint in Delhi in between. Yes.
All right. Okay. So what have these 4 cities taught you? What has it left on you, each of these cities?
I schooled in Calcutta and Lucknow, and Calcutta gave me the arts and sport. Lucknow gave me the zuban, जिसे कहते हैं लखनवी नजाकत और आदाब और तहजीब, the rich gift of language. And if my Hindustani is fluent today, it's because of my time in Lucknow. Then I spent 3 years in Delhi, where I was working for a radio station at Times FM, called Times FM. I was also doing my graduation. And then I came to Mumbai for my post-graduation, and I just stayed on. And mind you, I was working right on from my 12th standard. So, I get into FY and I immediately start working on the radio. Delhi taught me, gave me an insight into the furiousness of the hard work that I was to face in the larger part of my career. And then Mumbai is just my, as they call, Karam Bhumi. It is the place where everything, all of it just came together. Also academia, in terms of the fact that, I did a master's in film, television, radio production, topped my class, which really gave me an academic view of the industry that I was going to be a part of. So, I have wonderful memories. I have wonderful takeaways from all these 4 cities, and they've all gone to the molding of my personality.
Awesome. You studied in an illustrious school, and that's Le Martiniers, right?
That's right.
There's something about schools. I studied in a wonderful school called Don Bosco Egmore at Chennai.
Of course, yes.
And when I look back at what's
I want to interrupt you. Back in the day, when I was playing tennis for Bengal State, the Egmore Stadium was a huge tennis venue. Yeah. So we used to play a lot of tennis at the Egmore Stadium. And, as kids, you always enjoy visualizing how the stadium would be packed to the rafters. So
Yeah.
nobody came to watch the sub-junior and the junior tennis except your colleagues and a few other tennis enthusiasts. So I have fond memories of Egmore, just coming there, playing tennis, and that Egmore Stadium. Continue, yes.
Yeah, but yeah. So to let you know, I went there for coaching as well. Just after school, mom would rush me there to the Egmore Stadium for coaching. It was quite a culture, and really fond memories of that. But hey, your school, La Martiniers, right? In terms of values, has it left an imprint in you? And if what would you recall of that?
They always say British public school culture. You read all these novellas and these books, and it's very richly mentioned by the literateurs, the writers of yore, and even the current generation. And some of it is written in a very child-friendly style by Enid Blyton, but you never realize the value of that till you're in a school of that nature. And that's what Le Martiniere for boys and girls is. I mean, there are only 3 of them in the world. There's one in Lyon in France, one in Calcutta, one in Lucknow. And, what it did is give us the opportunity to not just study, but also pick up music, an instrument, and also sport. Academia, sport, and art. They are the 3 bylines of a human being's existence. I mean, that if you want your daughter to flower, you will make sure she picks one sport. She will pick one art, sphere of art that is close to her heart, and you'd like her to study. I mean, that's what all parents want them to do. And eventually, they make up their minds whether they want to pursue the music, the art, or the sport, or academia, or a combination of all. At the end of the day, what else can we do except give our children the benefit of exposure? And that's what my parents did, and that's what that school did. So big ups to that school that, really nurtured us at a very early stage.
So pretty much the foundations were set there. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting, and I find it amazing and a little sad at the same time, is that you were a serious tennis talent. And for a close friend, you had Leander Paes, and who's still a close friend of you, but you guys were peers, right? Why don't you talk us through that, the whole tennis journey?
Yeah, so Lee and me were peers. We were in the same class in school. To his credit, he was great at any sport that he picked up. I've always said this, and to Leander, I haven't actually said it in an interview. I mean, either an interview that I've conducted or an interview that I've been the subject of like this. But really, if Leander Paes took hockey, he would have played hockey for the national squad. If he had decided to pick football, he would have played football for the national squad. But he picked tennis because he was just, I think it's also in the genes, because Uncle Wes was an Olympian. He played and captained the Indian hockey team in Munich. Aunt Jenny was also, Jennifer Paes, his mother, was also captain of the Indian basketball team back in the day in that same Munich Olympics. So, the genes were there, but of course he just worked incredibly hard. And we were part of coaching camp, which was run by Anwar Ali. Akhtar Ali sir captained as well as coached India. His son Zishan Ali also played tennis for India. And Akhtar sir used to hold these, summer coaching camps or other, coaching camps at various times of the year. But through the year, his younger brother Anwar was also a very famous coach. Ran his coaching academy in a place called Outram Club in Calcutta. So even though we were playing tennis at the Saturday Club and the Calcutta Cricket and Football Club, we went to this coaching academy together. So Lee and myself, we saw a lot of each other because we were also in class together. And then post that, we were in the same tennis coaching together. And then, our parents used to drop us off at each other's house. And, the third piece in this triangle was Sunny Uthul. Sunny, whose mother, Usha Uthup, is such a legendary singer. So, Auntie Usha has fed us many a meal. So Sunny, myself, and Leander were pretty much, soulmates. Sunny was also, contrary to my size and Sunny's size, we both played a lot of sport, except Leander decided to take it up professionally. Sunny was also a very fine cricketer, and Yeah, so it was really that, eventually then Leander and myself started representing Bengal in under 10, under 12. Um, and it's a friendship that has lasted the test of time.
Wow, that's awesome. So good. And I said I was disappointed because of something that happened, which didn't perhaps allow that side of you to flower, which is the tennis player. And that was an accident that you unfortunately had in Lucknow. And in a way, it crippled your tennis dream. Would I be fair in saying that?
Yeah, but I've learned so much from people that I've met. Just the other day, I was in conversation with Parthiv Patel, the former India wicketkeeper batsman, and he just held up his fingers like this.
Yeah, and he's got one finger.
And he's got one finger less. And
Mm.
all these years, he never talked about it. And I said, do you ever miss having that? He said, I don't know, because I lost it at age 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't dwell on things like what could have been with 10 fingers. I knew no better. I don't even dwell on, oh my God, you could have played 100 test matches if you weren't in the Dhoni era. These are things I don't waste my energy on. And likewise for me, who's to say what would have happened? But yeah, I was doing pretty well in tennis, and I used to have what they call a moped in those days.
Yeah, TVS 50.
A Puck.
Luna?
It's called
Puck.
Euro
Yeah,
Puck.
yeah.
I eventually graduated to a Suzuki Shogun.
Yeah.
Did you raise
the this, what do you call that? The thing over the wheel. And also the exhaust made a lot more noise when you travel.
So the Shogun came later.
Yeah.
In the college days, but I had a Puck, and my mother always says I emotionally blackmailed her into buying me that one. And I was on the way to a singing competition. I was head boy of my school at the time, and a white ambassador came and hit me. I broke my 3rd cervical vertebra. I was in collar. But gratitude is something that you cultivate so beautifully, Rajiv Chilladurai, and I've learned to cultivate that over the sands of time. I don't know who they were that hit me, but they lifted me that's the last thing I remember. There was a lady she was screaming at her husband, and he was driving, and she had put my head on her lap. And this was when I was 15 and a half, 16 years old. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. And she put her head on my lap, and that's when I passed out. And they dropped me outside a hospital in Lucknow, a government hospital called the City Hospital, out in a stretcher. And they left. And that probably, saved my life. Because, then somebody found my number, got in touch with my mother. My parents reached the hospital, and then they were able to, after some time, shift me to a private facility. So, yeah, I spent the larger part of the year. I'd also broken my wrist, smashed my knee, as well as had a 3rd cervical. So there were 3 different injured, and this was my playing wrist, my left wrist, my tennis wrist, and the cervical vertebra. And I survived, but it was remarkable. It was almost like a second life to me. But I had to write my exams, my 12th standard with a writer, a few of them. And then I just took off my cast and wrote the remaining exams. It's not a very prudent thing to do for all youngsters listening here. It's not something that an orthopedist would advise. But yeah, a fair amount of drama. So you could argue that there are people who have come back from cancer and played for the country. There are people who have faced all kinds of obstacles and done that and come back. But the thing is, when you have a cervical injury, then you have to be careful all your life, perhaps, And for to play competitively, I just couldn't do it after that. I tried, and it remained a hobby or a passion and things like that. But yeah, so my friends would always argue, saying that sports is loss is the arts is gain. The next best thing that I was doing was I was doing decently well in the arts. Like I said, I was head boy of my school. I was into elocution, debating, lots of theater. And I just decided very early on a career in the arts.
Yeah, so I'll completely give that credit to the Tamil genes.
True that, my friend. Now we're being clannish, but true that.
Hey, but but then you decided to pursue your calling, which is what you do today. My question to you, Hrishi, is: did you recognize this streak in you of being that presenter, being that host, being so good with words, being able to communicate, was it something that you recognized early that, hey, maybe this is the path that I need to pursue? Or how did it happen?
Oh, yes, of course. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be in the arts. At the time, I wanted to do theater. And people would scoff at me and say, theater is not paying. Theater's still not paying. I mean, the greats still go and earn their money doing OTT work or film work or television work, and then come back and do a bit in the theater. There are people who are full-time theater personalities, and really hats off to them, so much respect for them. But I realized, because I was doing so well, and eventually, because Lucknow is very close to Delhi, my friends were going to Delhi. I decided to go to Delhi to pursue a graduation. My father was very upset because he wanted me to go to Loyola or Madras Christian College in Chennai, because my Chittappa or my Chacha was there, and I had got admission into those colleges too. And he said, if you want to read economics, Chennai is a great place to go. I said no, but the train to Lucknow is only about a few hours away. My friends are going there. I can keep coming back over the weekend, and let me go. And I eventually won in Delhi University what they call debating colors. I won 16 out of 17 debates.
Wow.
And the 17th one I came second. So, and I was also part of the theater thing in my college, theater group, and I won best actor at a host of places. So there was a lot of the arts going on. And this, at the same time, I started doing radio, because Times FM
while you were
was
in
starting.
college?
Immediately.
Okay.
Because back in the day, there was only All India Radio FM. And there was a point when All India Radio FM turned around and said, okay, look here, we're not giving private players their own frequency, or rather Information Broadcasting Ministry, Prasar Bharati, but private players can come and hire hours from us.
Right.
So the Times of India hired a few hours on All India Radio and called it Times FM. The midday people hired a few hours, leased a few hours, paid an per hour rate, and called it Radio Midday. There was 6 o'clock FM in Delhi. So these were the beginnings of FM radio, and I'm talking about 93, 94. Then FM radio came into its own only in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the government actually auctioned frequencies for everybody to have their own frequency, which is why you have Radio City 91, 98.3 Mirchi, right. 94.3 Radio 1. But the early days of FM radio was just private players hiring out those hours, and how you knew that you were switching from one corporate entity to another was a jingle. So the Radio Midday jingle would play, and then the Times FM radio, jingle would start. Right. And those companies eventually went on to form their own frequencies. So Radio Midday became Radio 1 when the government, licensed frequencies. First became Go 92.5 and then Radio 1. Times FM then became Radio Mirchi. So in those early days, and I was, still doing theater. And Roshan Abbas, I have to give him credit. Today he runs Encompass, and he's really a pioneer. And I know him from my school days in Lucknow because he was senior to me, and I was doing theater in a theater group that he was part of in Lucknow called Expression Theatre Arts. Then I was doing theater with him in a theater group in Delhi called Stage Door. And he said, man, there are some auditions going on and they're going to start radio. And I was like, radio? Yeah, because, come on. We're talking the mid-90s. And there was the only radio we had heard of was our parents talking about Amin Sayani.
Right.
And, friends who came from abroad and did get you tapings of FM radio on cassettes and things like that,
Yeah.
And I was like, radio? But, who listens to the radio? So Roshan said, look here, man, just go and give a voice test, I've gone and done it. I think this is a lot of fun. So maybe you should go. So I went. I took a voice test. And I'll tell you that, Rajiv, the moment I walked into that studio and I put on the headphones, and they'd asked me to write, a 2-minute piece, solo piece, 2-minute fake call with a listener, a 2-minute fake interview with a celebrity. Just 3 short bits. And I put on the headphones. I was like, whoa. Because this to me, it was like falling in love for the first time. It was like being swept away, Rajiv. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It combined the performing arts, which is theater, and it combined music, which was my other subsidiary passion.
Right.
Not just playing violin in the school orchestra or singing in the school choir or being part of school or college bands, but music in terms of the fact that I was the go-to guy to make mixtapes in my community, my friend circle. Guys would come to me and say, man, I used to have those double-deck cassette recorders.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I would make romantic hits for my friends to give to their girlfriends, on
Right.
Valentine's Day. I was the guy who you came to and said, man, make me a rock mixtape and I'll make you the best rock hits. And I actually titled it saying, best rock hits of 91 and 92 and things like that. And I was like, man, this combines music and performances. And then Times FM gives me an offer saying 500 rupees a radio program. Are you kidding me? A kid in FY, first year of college, 500 bucks a radio program? That is a princely sum.
Yeah, I've just struck gold.
It's just struck gold. So yeah, I mean, that's how I get into radio. And then all of a sudden, it all shuts down because the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, when around about the time, I think it was during Sushma Swaraj's time when she was Information and Broadcasting Minister, God bless her soul now, she made the decision of shutting down leasing hours to private entities and just went back to All India Radio. Perhaps it is a precursor to eventually auctioning frequencies and actually get private radio going in the true sense. I mean, those are things that you will never know about. Yeah. But back in the day, it was about her and the ministry turning around and saying, okay, fine, Times FM, Radio Midday, 6 o'clock FM, all the parties. There used to be a radio star with Cyrus Brocha and Mohan Kapoor used to work for early in the morning in Mumbai. We're pulling the plug and we're not going to renew these lease agreements. It went back to All India Radio in its truest sense. It used to be called AIR FM. Now, of course, they have connotations like Rainbow and things like that.
No, Rainbow.
And there was a whole breed of radio presenters who suddenly were left without radio work. And they all went and adopted different careers. So Brian Tellis, who was a colleague, you'd already started laying the foundation stones to start Fountainhead, which is an event management company. And Brian went and concentrated on that. Rahul Mulani was another colleague, became a voiceover artist. Erica was another colleague, continued with the Times of India because, they were starting up Planet M. Then eventually she went on to a programming job in Channel V. Brocha started doing his MTV stuff. So all the early radio presenters suddenly had to go and get themselves allied jobs. I said, no, I want to continue doing radio. And my parents were flabbergasted because they were like, you want to continue working for a government frequency? So I said, yeah, I will, And it was a come down in terms of pay because the government used to pay us 400 rupees an hour, a show. But it was okay, man. It was radio that I was so fortunate to be doing. And by that time, I was already doing my postgrad in Xavier's and I was in Bombay. And when this happened, I was doing Times FM in Bombay. And when I talk about Brian, Erica, all of them, we were working together in Times FM in Bombay. Because when I finished my graduation and I moved from Delhi to Bombay to do my postgrad at Xavier's, because I'd got into a film, television, radio postgraduate course at XIC, Xavier's Institute of Communications. The programming head of Times FM Delhi wrote to the programming head of Times FM in Bombay and said, there's this kid, he's really bright. Why don't you hire him? And they immediately absorbed me. Because they already heard of me, they'd heard my program. So I came in here and I started working. Our live programs used to be out of All India Radio in Churchgate, and our pre-recorded programs used to be out of a small little cubbyhole studio in Elko Arcade in Bandra, where some of the biggest stars came in and went out. And when this happened, all my colleagues just went on to other spheres. And, my parents were very worried for me. I know I would be too. As a father of two today, I understand where they're coming from. Luckily for me, the television boom happened at that point of time. And, Channel V, MTV, the Star Network, everything just exploded. And when the television boom happened, not only did they need actors and VJs, they need voices. Somebody like Ekta Kapoor needed for her Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi and Kahani Ghar Ghar Ki. Pichle episode mein aapne dekha. Tulsi ne fulana kiya, usne kiya before the episode started off. The Channel V's and the MTVs needed a voice saying, tonight at night on Channel V, MTV, enjoy. So all these, and ZTV needed Aaj Raat 9 baje ZTV par. They needed voice artists to come in and just do voiceovers for promos, because all programs have program promotions, which happen in between programs. And all of a sudden, this thing opened up for me. So I told my parents, I said, look here, postgrad is happening, which is okay. I'm doing well there. My radio is happening, which is I'm flourishing. I'm still going to All India Radio and I'm broadcasting for All India Radio. And the career is going to be okay because, I'm doing so many television voiceovers. I was just hopping from channel to channel, studio to studio doing that. So I stayed on in radio, and then, the radio boom happened and private frequencies came in. So
Awesome.
it was a combination of fate and just being very adamant and stubborn and a little bit of talent, perhaps.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Somebody once said, right, life is lived forward but understood backwards. That's exactly what it is. But it's interesting to see, it's fascinating to see all those dots. You recognize those dots now when you kind of look back. But what I'm curious to know, Hrishi, is your folks were really doing well, top of the game in terms of their career, doing the conventional stuff. And I know from the part of the world that we hail from, this must have been a pretty controversial decision of yours in terms of, hey, I'm going to do radio. I'm not going to get into academics. I'm not going to be the engineer. I'm not going to be the doctor or the bank officer or the MBA. And there could have been lots of pressure, right? So how do you handle your sense of purpose and say, this is what I want to pursue versus pressure from well-meaning people around you? Could you just share that?
It takes a lot out of you, Rajiv. It just takes a lot out of you. There's no easy way to do it. But you've got to just believe in what you're doing and be a little stubborn about it. I know these are all well-meaning people, but understand where I'm coming from. My father went to Guindy College of Engineering in Madras at the time, now Chennai. He got into IIT for engineering, but he was too young. They didn't accept him. Whoa. Because, he was sub, 15 or around the age. And so he went and joined Guindy because, in those days, you just get admitted to school, right? His elder cousin was going to school, so they made him go and sit next to his elder cousin, and he joined school. So he joined school earlier than a lot of other kids. And nobody asked questions back in the day. He just went on from class to class and doing well. So when he passed out of what was called the PUC, the pre-engineering university at the time, he was too young for IIT, but he got through. He was such a brilliant man. So he goes to Guindy, then he goes to IIM. He starts heading switchgear at Larsen & Toubro, a very traditional engineering company. He's an engineer. Eventually retired as vice president of Larsen & Toubro. My mother retired as deputy director of the Confederation of Indian Industry, the CII, which does such remarkable work even today. She's a BSc, MSc, a B.Ed, gold medalist in physics from the Delhi University, because my grandfather used to be a lawyer working in Delhi. She did a diploma in small-scale industries from Rotterdam, a diploma in large-scale industries from Washington, became an industries expert, was economic advisor to the government of UP during my father's tenure in Lucknow at Larsen & Toubro. Subsequently in CII Mumbai, in Bombay, where my dad was moved to the Bombay office. My dad used to fritter between Ballad Estate, which is L&T's headquarters, and the Powai factory, because back in the day they used to have a packaging unit making bottle caps for the Pepsis and the Cokes of the world. My dad was in charge of that factory, the packaging unit. My mother subsequently moved to CII in Bombay. Used to work out of early office. Highly accomplished people. And here's a kid who turns around and passes his 12th standard and says, I want to do the arts, which in itself was a big blow. Oh, you must write the civil services, because that's what they knew at that point in time. My dad wanted to be a lawyer, but my grandfather said, no, you get into engineering college. He got into engineering college. My mother, I know, that wanted to got admission into Buffalo University, but she was about to get married, so She stayed on. Of course, she got married to a man who allowed her career to flourish, and big ups to them for having that this thing. I shouldn't even say allow. That's a very sexist thing. But, they just worked it out. She said, I want to do this. That's the way it is. And for them to have a child who says, I want to do the arts, then, okay, it was a compromise. It's like, okay, fine, we do economics. And then a child who says, no, look here, I don't want to write the civil services. I don't want to write the MBA. I want to get into a career in the media. Must have been devastating for them. As much as it was devastating for me to battle them at the time or try and convince them. So it wasn't easy, but I just kept going. I stuck to my guns. I mean, today they're so proud. It's incredible. And I always tell my younger brother, because he eventually followed in the media, that it was so easy for you, man. Because in my time, they never even believed. They never even believed that the media could be a possible option. And once I became successful, it was all cool,
Yeah.
It's like getting married outside your community, You do that and it's like, wow, are you sure? Different culture, different community. Are you guys going to be together? So many questions asked. And then the next mixed community marriage, which is my brother, and he's like, I want to get married to a girl who's not part of the community. No problem, go ahead.
Yeah.
So the younger ones always have it easier. Yeah,
yes, you did all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, the heavy lifting. Yeah. So
I wanted to check with you. I mean, what's the conversation when you guys get together? You and your brother get together for a meal, because Siddharth is also equally accomplished radio host, right?
Yeah. So, we just try not to talk about work at all. Me in particular, I just don't want to. Because, when you spend so much time involved in your work, I do a 5-hour daily radio program. After that, there's so much digital engagement now to support it, especially with the COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah.
You're pushing out Insta Lives and you're doing these Zoom and Skype calls. And then you're doing a lot of work on phone calls. When you want to chill with your family, whether in person before the lockdown or even online right now, you just want to talk about food and the kids. I mean, I have 2 daughters. He has 2 daughters. Get the parents on, find out how they're doing, how their lives are going, how the aches and pains are going with the senior citizens, what they read, how their day went. So I, for one, am just not keen on any work conversation once the work gets over. And, with family, you can afford to pick your child and choose your topics and say, let's not just talk about that.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, the best way to do it. So, let me put it this way. The parents came around. They're now incredibly proud. But my only advice, as it were, to people, to youngsters listening to this who want to make a career is, A, be good at what you do. That's the bottom line. B, believe. I mean, a voice inside yourself tells you whether you're good at it or not, right? So, for example, if you suck at darts, you suck at darts. But if you're good at radio and television, you know that. And once you know that you're good at something, stick by your guns. You find purpose. Then, with the naysayers, don't be adamant. Be stubborn. When I use the word stubborn, be stubborn only to the extent of pursuing your goals. Give them a listen. If you see value in what they're saying, take that, because they're all well-wishers, most of them at least, especially close family. So don't discount that. See what, you can use and sift through what you don't need.
Right.
So it's not as though you have to take everything through one year and, push it out through the other year.
Right.
And that could really be the first step or a stepping stone.
Awesome. That's really powerful. So, if you look at radio today and you look at other sophisticated platforms, right? Radio is still holding on. But the question, Hrishi, is how will radio not just hold on, but will take the lead? Is it content? Is it people like you? What's the journey? What's the road ahead?
They always say that in a lot of ways, India follows the West, but in a lot of ways, we're pioneers. Pioneers because, if you look at what we're doing with our mass transport system, the bogies that are coming in for our metros are more state-of-the-art, perhaps, than some of the European countries, because they had to upgrade by shutting down a lot of their services. We don't, because we're new to the game. So we just get the most modern technology.
Right.
Likewise with mobile phones and the banking system, the third-party authentication, or just feeding in the PIN came in first to us, and then was adopted by the rest of the world. So we are at the forefront of being able to just assimilate the new technology, because we're new to the game in a lot of ways. And at the other end of the spectrum, we can also take the best learnings from the West. And if you look at what Howard Stern and Ryan Seacrest and Zane Lowe and all these radio presenters from abroad have been doing, is that their audio shows on whatever platform they're on, whether it's Kiss FM or Apple Music or radio or Sirius Radio, is that they've also become video shows. So Howard Stern or Ryan Seacrest or Zane Lowe are sitting at their desk and they're conversing with a guest, or they're doing that. And it's also going on a video stream as well as an audio stream. We've started doing that here in India. Yeah. The idea also is to go full digital. It's not technology wise, it's very easy to do. Whatever's going on the radio, you just take a pipe and you put it in, and it goes online. You plug and play. But there are the rights issues. So it's really simple, Rajiv. For using songs on radio, you have to pay royalty to music companies. So if I say, here's the next Bryan Adams song, and I play a Bryan Adams song, or here's the next Roxette song, or the Ariana Grande song, or a John Mayer song, you have to pay the music company that owns that music, whether it's Sony Music or whether it's Universal Music, who owns that song, or that artist is part of that label, whether it's John Mayer or Ariana Grande or whoever you play. So you pay them an X amount for using that music on the radio. The moment you take that stream and you put it online, you have to pay a separate fee for usage of those songs online.
Oh, okay. So
that's how the system works. You've got to. And how much you pay is a figment of sitting across the table, negotiating, a lot of other factors. So the West has done it. Even the Middle East has done it, which is why, you go on and you open all these Dubai radio stations. They all have apps, even the networks, Radio 4, 89.1, Channel 4, and this and that. That's the next step for India, especially English radio in India, because I know that the B and C cities, the satellite townships, and the extended Hindi listening audience still has radio sets,
Right.
But the average English listener went digital a long time ago. And the average English listener also has the choice of Apple Music, Spotify, Saavn, Amazon Music, all at their phone on apps. You could argue that the content that a Hrishi K or whoever it is putting out is more relevant because it combines aspects of a music streaming platform and a podcast, which is bits of both. And it's very uniquely Mumbai, or uniquely wherever the radio presenter belongs to. So if you want to get a bird's eye view of the city, you'd still want to come to a Hrishi K as opposed to a streaming service which just puts together a playlist for you. But you've got to make it easier for them. For example, if you're listening to an interview of me speaking to Governor Rajan, or to Salman Rushdie, or to Mr. Bachman, and you're in the car, which has a radio set, and you reach your office, and you're going to get up and go up, and you're going to be on your mobile phone or your pad or your desktop, and you don't have a radio set in the office. You want to continue listening to the interview of Mr. Bachchan's. So you want to move to an app or to an online stream. And that is really the present and the future of radio. We've got to get our digital game going, both audio as well as video.
Right.
And obviously put out great content. In the post-COVID world, this assumes even more importance, because you can't expect people to go to their cars or, procure a physical set. It's got to be available, the distribution
easy
has
access.
got to be bang on, easy access. Also in a post-COVID, it's almost as though, I had no clue of the post-COVID world or of COVID-19 hitting us. But I just had a gut feeling that some things needed to be done this way. It's like Bill Gates, right? A lot of conspiracy theorists turn around and say, oh my God, he knew about this virus. But he turns around and says, look here, I just had the data with me and I interpreted that. My gut feeling always told me, and whichever radio station I've worked for, I've always worked in a producer cum presenter capacity.
Mm.
Sure, I have one person to help me, who I call an associate producer. But whichever frequency I work for a satellite radio network called World Space, whether it's All India Radio, whether it's Times FM, Radio Mirchi, where I spend some time, Win 94.6 FM, where I spend some time, now Radio 1 in Hindi and now Radio 1 in English. All the stations I've joined and I say, I want to be a producer presenter.
Right.
Give me one person who can be an associate producer who helps me, with the physical edits and things like that. And of course, now all radio stations have a music programmer who selects the music and puts the music into the systems. But like I said, I did it because I am passionate about creating content. So for all of you who are listening, in music, radio, and music video parlance, a producer is the director of the show. Yeah, so we don't call it a show director. We call it a show producer in MTV, Channel V. Now, of course, it doesn't. All those stations are now reality stations,
Right.
not pure music stations. VH1 perhaps, and of course, radio stations. We call it a show producer. So I've always been a producer cum presenter, because
Right.
to me, just delivering the content is not enough. It's always been about also having an active hand in shaping that content.
Right.
And in a post-COVID world, that is what is going to happen.
Awesome. Hrishi,
People
let
me finish this. People in the short run might not even have the resources, because there's no revenue in this period, right? And we're looking, a lot of people are looking to write off 2020, 21, So what is to stop platforms, whether it's radio stations or, podcast platforms, to turn around and say, we can't afford this. We can't have separate producers, separate radio presenters, and separate associate producers. Let's have one creative person plus executor and one other person to help him. And I didn't do this because I was imagining a world with COVID. I was just doing it because that's the way I was functioning, and that might become the norm. So just a heads up for people who are trying to get into the radio space. I can't comment on other spheres, but at least in radio, on the audio sphere, that's where I see it happening. The larger themes are going to be whittled down, and people are going to be expected to multitask.
Absolutely. So, what's been your most difficult interview that you've had done so far? And let me ask another question along with that. Do you still get nervous?
Yeah, of course I do. My father told me this very long time ago when I used to be a kid going in for debates. And he said, you should always have a knot in your stomach. Because if you don't have a knot in your stomach, that means you're too confident. And if you have too many knots, multiple knots, and you're getting fearful, you're going to muck it up, because you're allowing fear to overtake you. And this is a man who was an engineer, who had a love for the arts. In fact, when he was working for Indian Oil in Pune, he used to do voiceovers for Film Institute guys. The Film Institute guys, free of cost, because they were friends of his, because he had this rich baritone. But other than that, he had no contact with the media, But he was an active debater. In Chennai, he used to debate against P. Chidambaram, who's now a minister, and things like that. You know how it is with Guindy debates and things like that. And my father said that holds true for anybody today. A knot in the stomach is good. Too much fear means it's not right. And too much confidence, which is not even having a knot in the stomach, is not right. So I do, yeah. And, I prepare very well. I make sure I read a lot, which is a continuous process. But yeah, there is still a knot when I go in for any interview, which I think is a good thing.
And what's been your trickiest, if you can share, trickiest interview?
Oh, there have been so many of them. There have been so many of them. But normally it's the really sharp intellectuals who keep you on your feet. People who you've got to read up on. And people who will dialogue with you, and suddenly you've got to keep abreast in that conversation. I've interviewed Amitabh Ghosh, the writer, on multiple occasions. I've interviewed Salman Rushdie. I've interviewed Peter Frankopan, the historian. These are all remarkable people. I've interviewed economists. And you don't want to go wrong on your facts and figures and numbers, because they might throw stuff back at you,
Yeah.
So it is the intellectuals and the economists and the mathematicians who always pose a an interesting challenge, because something might happen in that interview, which proves to be magic. But it only proves to be magic is if you can feed off each other and just bounce off. For example, if Mr. Ghosh talks about the climate crisis, you should know about the climate crisis, the great derangement. If if a historian, Peter Frankopan, is talking about the Great Plague, you must know about it. If an economist like Sannyal, Sanjeev Sannyal comes in and he talks about the debt of third world countries, you should know enough about that. So these are the ones, and it's just fascinating. And captains of India Inc., business leaders, they're just remarkable. Whether it's Mr. Adi Godrej, whether it's Mr. Anand Mahindra, or recent captain of the industry, Suresh Narayanan, or Rajesh Ramakrishnan. These are all wonderful people. Harsh Mariwala, and they lead brands like Marico and Perfetti and Nestle, and they have a world view. And apart from being great brand men, they have a finger on the pulse on sales, on marketing, and their worldview is just astonishing. So those are the ones I really, really enjoy.
Awesome. That's good. So I really pick up the not the luxury, but the necessity of preparation. That is really key to whatever you do in life, right? So one last question, and this has been a fascinating conversation, Hrishi. My question is to everybody listening, maybe from different domains, pursuing different paths. There's a lot of uncertainty of what this post-COVID world is going to look like. So what do you do in a time like this, which is where you're pretty much locked down, to prepare yourself for uncertainty and the unknown new normal, which will emerge?
I can only talk about my life. I've learned editing softwares, new ones, and even video editing, just the basics of it. I can't claim to be an expert. But I know for a fact that if I'm locked down, even without the help of an audio or a video editor, I'm going to be able to put out edits, just basic edits. It might not look like, shiny stuff that you could put on worldwide television. But just saying, the basics, looks neat, looks clean, and gets the job done. So I've been playing around with a bunch of new software, new interesting things that can happen in the video as well as the podcasting, the voiceover world. I was already pretty decently kitted out, because even though I used to travel from Andheri in Mumbai to Parel in Mumbai for my radio programs and back, I was doing a lot of voiceovers from home, because with voiceovers, it's a pre-written script, isn't it? It's denim for the man who doesn't have to try too hard, or super in ki chamkar, zyada safed, lines which copywriters send to you or promo producers send to you, tonight at 9, things like that, which don't necessarily need you to be in a studio at the time. You can send the lines to the producer. So I already had a decent setup at home doing those voiceovers. I've added a lot of great kit, sound boxes, audio cards, softwares, microphones, audio booths, to up my game, because I knew that we were in for the long haul as far as these things are concerned. And some of this gear is a little difficult to get now, but like I said, I thought of it a little earlier, because as luck would have it, voiceovers were buzzing and I needed to get it done once I got home. So I'd already built a decent audio studio at home. So my advice would be just that, start building stuff, learning new things, upskilling. It could be in your area. Like what I'm doing is in my area, I'm not trying to jump off a skyscraper, as of now at least. That wouldn't be possible considering the lockdown, but I'm just saying. So maybe you could just add to your existing skills, get better at them, keep abreast with new technology, and also speak. I spend a lot of time, Rajiv, on speaking to technicians. Like I was just telling an actress friend of mine the other day, saying that, for an actress, a cinematographer is so important. I'm not saying that you have to butter up or schmooze your cinematographer, but have dialogues with your cinematographer, because he's the guy who makes you look the way you are. He will tell you how to take the light and things like that. For an audio person, a sound engineer should be your best friend. So, for example, in layman's terms, for all the people who don't understand audio, you must have seen visuals of singers standing on one side of the glass cabin and a person sitting in front of a large desk with a lot of controls. He's an audio engineer who records singers and voiceover artists. And there are tech guys. Even in radio, we run our own software. But if there's a problem, there are tech guys, broadcast engineers who come in and help us. So I've always over the years spent a lot of time with audio engineers, invited them home, chatted with them. Even now, I'm on a Zoom call, any desk, sharing software, sharing platforms. If I have any queries, I'm conversing with them. Yeah. Right. So find out who are the experts in your field and try and dialogue with them. Take some of their time, respect their time, and grow.
Awesome. This has really been very fascinating. I also think it's been very insightful. We spoke a lot, and from your life, your story, your experiences. We heard about purpose. We heard about listening to that inner voice to identify your calling. We spoke about dealing with disappointments, your tennis accident, and so on and so forth. We spoke about believing in yourself and pursuing what you think you ought to be doing, being proactive. And what do you do in a lockdown situation like this, which is upskill, talk to people who can add value to you. It's been a pleasure, Hrishi. It's been fascinating. And I'm sure anybody who listens to this is going to take it out. I must thank you. Despite being up till 5 a.m. this morning, you still made time for this. So hats off to you. You got the rich baritone voice. You got the knowledge. You got the expertise. Thanks to the genes. But you are a man of humility. And that really just stands out. And I think humility is something which is manifest for you. So keep going, Hrishi. Be blessed. And it's always a pleasure to know you and call you a friend.
For everybody who's watching, Rajiv Chilladurai's life itself is an inspiring real life tale that if you don't know about, you must. Please pick up, his books, pick up on his writing on the wall, follow his social media pages. It has helped me grow, and I'm very positive that if you follow this man, he will add value to your life. Thank you very, very much, my friend. And I'm just honored to be chatting with you. God bless you.
Thanks, Hrishi. Lots of love. Bye.
Cheers.